How not to paint like Bob Ross. Hey everybody, I'm Ken Brant and I'm an artist. Before I begin this video, I just want to say I just thank everybody for watching my videos. I appreciate the comments. They're always great. I make sure I comment back. And if you like my videos, make sure you give it a like, hit the thumbs up, and make sure you subscribe if you are not a subscriber. So what do I mean by how not to paint like Bob Ross? Bob Ross is great. I myself have watched many of his episodes. I bought his art supplies, his paints, and when I first started, I used a lot of his tips and techniques on creating my landscape paintings as well. And one of the things that bothered me was I would finish a landscape painting, I would show it to somebody, and they would always say, "Hey, that looks exactly like that painting that guy does on TV." Meaning Bob Ross. Not everybody remembers Bob Ross's name, but that's who they meant. And that bothered me because I didn't want people to look at my paintings and associate them with a Bob Ross painting. I wanted people to look at my paintings and go, "Hey, that's a Ken Brant." I mean, if you look at a Bierstadt or a Shishkin, at no point will anybody ever say, "Hey, that painting looks exactly like that guy on TV." Because Bierstadt and Shishkin and other painters of their caliber, they had their own style and it was recognizable throughout the art world. So that is what I mean by how not to paint like Bob Ross. You need to create or invent your own personal style. I'm not saying don't use his techniques in any of your paintings, because a lot of those techniques work and they really make for certain effects that you might like in your painting. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. On this painting here, I actually use a Bob Ross technique within this painting, and I will point that out when we get to that point in the video. So sit back, relax. I hope you enjoy this video, and as always, again, I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time. On this painting here, I was trying to go for a kind of I'm playing around with tonalism. In fact, the last video that I posted was a painting that I had done. It had a very tonalistic feel to it. It was a landscape with an old oak tree and some moss on it, and it had a soft glow in the background. And I really am playing around with those kind of landscapes. Earlier, or at the beginning of the video, I do mention Shishkin, and his paintings are amazing. Now, they don't always fall into, I wouldn't call a Shishkin painting tonalistic. He has some with that are have a very moodiness feel to them, but not all of them. A lot of them are very photorealistic type landscapes. Now, here's the thing about his work that I would really like to try to emulate, and because I'm always pushing, the effects of light and having the focal point. And Shishkin is the kind of painter that doesn't necessarily have those elements within his painting. He goes more for a feeling. When you look at his landscapes, you feel the coldness of his winterscapes. You feel a breeze on your face when you look at one of his summer meadows or a forest in the springtime. And that's kind of the direction I would really like to go with my landscapes. So this here is an attempt of a winterscape where I wanted to practice doing a lot of trees, groupings of trees, how to kind of have them look like a forest, but I don't want to lose the visuals. How am I trying to? I don't want to lose. Yeah, first, I have to learn how to speak. I don't want to lose the effect of a forest. I want, when you look at the painting from a distance, you should be able to read it right off the bat as that is a winterscape in a forest scene. So that's kind of what I'm going for. So what I did here is I toned the paper. I used some, or the canvas. I used burnt umber, some raw umber. The darker brown is the raw umber, and here I'm going in. I put in my darks. Now I'm going for my light area. I'm still have a focal point in this, and obviously that's going to be the sunset in the background, peering through the trees. I really thought this would be a beautiful effect. So for the orange, I'm using cadmium orange on that, and I'm lightening up areas with some lead tin yellow and white, and that's what's going on there. And then for the sky area up above, which I'm hitting right now, that is a mixture of some titanium white. I have some cerulean blue in there, and a very light amount of Payne's gray. So that's the mixture that I have going on in there. And then I took the blender brush because I didn't want any hard edges, because that's all going to vanish behind those trees that I'm going to paint. Now right now you can't see, I don't have a lot of information for the tops of those trees at the moment on this painting, but that's what I'm going for. So I noticed I needed to darken up those areas within the forest where there's a tight cluster of trees. So that's why I put that dark area in there. I do that on both sides, and that's really just a mixture of asphaltum. I got some raw umber in there, and a very little bit of black. Not a lot. I had a lot more brown coming through on this than I did black, and that I thought was a little more pleasing to my eye, as opposed to having that really super dark, that black can put on the painting. I did want some brown, so that's what I used there. And I have, if you'll notice, I'm putting some tree branches that are like coming off, coming out from the edge of the canvas there, as if there's a tree off scene that you're not seeing, but you can still see its branches. The reason I put that in there, because I don't like to do that, because that is reminiscent of a photo. You'll see that in a lot of photos. It's not necessarily true. A lot of people, when they paint those scenes, professional, I don't want to say amateur painters do that, but there's a place for it. And the reason I put those in there this time is because I wanted to give the effect that this is a much larger scene than what you're looking at. I wanted to make sure that the viewers looking at this is only seeing a snippet of a much larger forest. So I thought having those branches coming in off the side did that. It makes the viewer believe that, oh, if I was to turn my head and if there were more canvas, I would see more of this. I'm not 100% sure how effective that is. It's just what I was thinking when I was painting this, and if you want to give some feedback on that and tell me what you think, by all means, please do. And because then I'll know next time, okay, maybe that's not such a good idea. Every painting I learn something new, or I try to learn something new. This painting is no different, no exception to this painting as opposed to any other painting. So yeah, so for the snow area, the mixture of snow is actually a titanium white. There's some Payne's gray and yellow ochre, and I believe there's more yellow ochre than there is Payne's gray in this mixture, and that's because the snow is going to be reflecting some of that sunlight coming in from the sunset, from the, behind those trees. So it's going to be picking up a lot of that light off of there. So it needed to have a warmer color to it. And it's kind of weird because when we think of snow, we think of cold. And so a lot of times when we paint things in the temperatures that we believe, a sun is hot, so we use warm colors. It's warm, it's yellow, and that's not a coincidence that the hot sun is the color that it is, and snow is cold, and we consider blue to be cold. And again, not a coincidence. It's just that's the way nature portrays these colors, and we need to paint what we see. Which, like for example, during the winter, and I don't know why this is. I'll have to try to look it up. And if you do know, leave in the comments below. But during the winter, water reflects much darker than it does during the spring or the summer. It's almost black, and you'll see a lot of winter scenes, photographs, paintings. The water's black during the winter, and it's kind of a unique effect, and it usually only happens at that time frame. So again, if you know why that is, let me know. I haven't researched it. I'm sure there's a reason why. But anyway, so there's a lot of warmer colors in the snow, and snow is complex. A lot of people think, oh, it's just white, or blue. No, snow has many, many different colors to it. To me, snow is as complicated as like flesh tones. When you're painting skin, there's a multitude of colors within skin. Same with snow. There's a multitude of colors. I have yellow ochre, I have Payne's gray, there's some cerulean blue, there's titanium white, there's some browns in there. There's all different kinds of colors I have mixed into the snow. So it's not just one color, one plain color. And I highly suggest when you do a painting that you play with many different colors and put them in different areas, and just it's amazing the effects that it makes, and a lot of times it really makes for a beautiful painting when you do these things. So play around, experiment. I always do, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. The ones that don't, I have a stockpile of paintings that are sitting in my studio that don't work. Well, to me, they don't work. A lot of people look at them and they're like, oh, these are beautiful. But I'm like, okay, you can have it, I guess. I don't want it. And I'll reuse a canvas if I'll pull one out if I need one. And during these times, right now, the art store is not open, so I'm running low on canvases, and so I may just have to dig into my batch of paintings I'm gonna have to and use those canvases. So here is where I'm using the Bob Ross style type technique. I took a large brush, bristled brush, and I speckled a light gray color for the snow in the distance on the tops of the trees within the forest. And then I took my brush and I added some blobs of snow in front of that to give that speckled effect some depth, and I really liked the way it looked. It really gave the impression that there were some branches back there. So I continued on from one side of the painting to the other, and you can see here, and I'm splashing it on the tops of the trees because at the tops of those trees, it's all, you get those tiny little branches, but they all collect snow, and you really can't sit there and paint each individual tiny little branch. So I thought this was a good way to try to represent that snow on the tops of those trees, off in the distance. So that is an actual Bob Ross technique I utilized there. But at no point does it make my painting resemble one of his paintings. I believe I really do have my own type of style here, and I'm quite happy with that. And it'll change. your style will change as you progress in your painting. So, you know, how I paint today will not necessarily be how I paint 5 years from now. But, you know, I do thank a lot of my techniques that I use to Bob. Thanks, Bob. And so hopefully you do the same as well. So yeah, and then I added a lot more snow onto the branches, and you know, then I kind of again went back into the snow in the foreground, kind of give it a little bit more personality, if you will. I added some, you know, some stumps sticking out of the snow, some little branches and stuff. Kind of thickened up the forest at the forefront a little bit, and I'm very happy with the way this came out. So I hope you enjoyed watching this. I hope you enjoyed, or I hope you learned something anyway in the process. If not, if you have any questions or anything about what I'm doing or how I'm doing it that I didn't explain, let me know. Leave in the comments below and let me know. Thanks. For anybody that's interested, just to let you know, I do coaching over the phone, and if you are interested in learning any or just taking your painting to the next step, give me a call. Let me know. And together we'll work through it. We'll work it out, and maybe we can, you know, make your paintings better than what they are. I'm not saying that I'm better than you. I'm just saying that sometimes it's nice to have an objective look, you know, someone that's not biased, looking at your stuff and kind of, you know, helping you along. And I can do that for you. So make sure you give me a call. That information is at the end of the video. And again, thank you.